I'm going to try really hard not to overshare, but I've had probably one of the worst weeks I've had in a couple years. And it was really just hard for me to get out of fight or flight this week. And everything's fine. It was like a scare, and everything ended up being fine. But in no time, I found myself back to what I call, and I'm going to try and make this not, too clinical because although I'm trying not to be too vulnerable because that's can be a problem. But truly, I do want to be a vulnerable person sometimes because if God can use things that I'm overcoming to help somebody else, then that's a position, if He calls me to, I want to step into. But when I had this trauma trigger, all at once it felt like I was right back to being in the school line and my water breaking, for Noah at 25 weeks. And I had my other two boys in the car, and not to get into that long story because I have before. But that and just the sights and the sounds of medical equipment and even my water broke at 25 weeks, but they had left me 2 to 3 centimeters dilated, and my water broke for almost 2 months. And after that, he was in the NICU for a long time, and there he had coded a lot, and I was there, because they gave me a hotel room, so I just kind of stayed, and it was just, I know for other people that are in the medical field, that might not be that unusual. It might just be a preemie thing. But for me, I don't know that I've ever honestly gotten past the sights, the sounds, and maybe nobody ever gets past watching their baby go through that. But, and then the last real trauma trigger was they had found a brain bleed on a scan, and I don't know what happened to me. It's a miracle. Maybe it was a bad scan, but the next day it wasn't there. And anytime there's anything medical, my body feels the exact same way from when I was there. And I'm all of a sudden just afraid of everything. And even as a clinician, I try to talk myself down, and I'm like, you're not there. And it's been years since I've had a real trauma trigger. And I know that some people get put off when you say trauma trigger, and they think you shouldn't, if you've not survived these atrocities, you don't have trauma triggers or PTSD symptoms. And it is all on a spectrum, but at the same time, we don't get to choose how we feel or how we respond to things. And if we did, most of us would choose differently. I would have definitely chosen differently this past week. But the reality of it is we don't get to choose. And for some people, an emergency medical situation like that, or watching somebody else be hurt, or even vicarious trauma. For some people, it's nothing, and some people who don't get to choose how they feel because we don't, it can really be debilitating. So this past week, I literally just felt completely in fight or flight, and that is an adrenaline state, if you don't know what I'm talking about. And in that adrenaline state, parts of your brain, your prefrontal cortex that make good decisions, and your insula, which makes you feel like you're in your body on a low scale, right? I'm not talking about extreme dissociation. Your hippocampus, where it's you're remembering things and you're thinking clearly, it all kind of goes off grid. And the back parts of your brain that work off of adrenaline are actually the ones working. And I know it sounds a little woo, but it's actually neuroscience now. So this actually happens, and it's really hard to undo it. And the funny thing is so many of my clients who, you're going to be in the fight, flight, or freeze, right? And I fight or flight. I'm not one to freeze. So, and a lot of my clients who fight or flight do the same thing as me. Here I am, having an adrenaline problem, and I'm I know what to do. I'll flood myself with more adrenaline. I'll Things I've tried this week were I'll exercise and do stuff that's really hard, and I'm not like extremely fit. So like Stairmaster, I went and threw like in medicine ball, which I never do, and I was like, this isn't helping. I'll clean everything, I'll overwork, I'll control everything. And today I woke up and was like, you are not doing okay, and you have to do something different. And I remembered kind of how I help guide my clients through it, which we never, take our own medicine. But today I was like, okay, you have to, because you have to be better this week. And you are safe. The scare was like just a scare and everything is fine. And you have to convince your body that you are not being hunted for sport, because you're not. You're safe. You're well. Everybody else is safe. And I had to move from wellness and controlling to coping mechanisms, which, again, I've made videos on this before, but coping mechanisms more feed your soul, not so much like keep your body in shape or like kind of prevent not being well. And for me, I treat a lot of creatives. It meant let my creative part come on grid, which for us creatives, or hunters, as I like to say, because I do think we're hunters, and I think we would have been the ones hunting, and I think it's nothing to be ashamed of that when, crisis happens or anything's wrong. Some of us are like head on a swivel and jumping to take care of everyone. But the reality of it is that we hunters usually have more significant PTSD symptoms at the end of crisis, right? And that's research, that's not my opinion, but so we shouldn't be ashamed of being hunters. We serve a great purpose, and we always have, but we're not living in the woods, and we're not hunting and gathering, and so we gotta flip it off. And what, for me, as a creative, I had to do was tap into my weirdo side. And I think growing up as a creative, sometimes we've got kids who they might be like smart and creative. And the world's always going to give more positive energy towards the smart part or the athletic part than it is the creative part. And that's not in a bad way. It's just because the creative part is kind of the part of us that doesn't fit into the 95%, right? So a lot of times we diminish that as our first response because we know that the world always goes, yeah, be athletic, or yes, be high achieving in the classroom, or be all these other things. But the creativity, it's not usually given as much positive reinforcement, but it's absolutely, for creatives, I metaphorically say we have to be creative or we metaphorically kind of die. The part of our brains that we love and that we thrive on kind of dies. So today when I went to be creative, all of this fear, right, which is ridiculous, came to my mind. I decided I'll go paddleboard. Like, that is something that it's not real exercise. Like, it's not adrenaline. You'll be by yourself doing it. And when I went outside to do it, in my mind, I was like, well, it's just you, because Mark went fishing offshore and I was too scared to go fishing in case anything bad happened. I didn't want to be that far out, which is silly, which is like not good, right? So I've already like walked towards fear in my first decision. And then when I went to paddleboard, I was like, what if you fall? What if you hit your head? What if you drown because you're all alone and you can't like raise your children? And they're like, in game is like, oh, she was a great mom, but she just had to paddleboard alone. And, we found her in the lake. And that's so ridiculous. Like, that is absolutely ridiculous. So I had to walk against this fear and go, okay, so of the things you are good at and not good at, which I'm not good at singing, and I sang all the way down the waterway, so I do apologize to the other people on the waterway, but I was like, you are a fish in the water, and there is absolutely no reason that you should think that you're going to fall off the paddleboard and drown. It's absurd. So I got on the paddleboard and was really able to unload, and it's the first place in gosh, 9 days, it's the first time I felt like the adrenaline started to lower and I feel better. And for the rest of the day, I'm going to try to be creative. And in doing so, trying not to overshare because that can be dangerous. It really can. But at the same time, I wanted to share with y'all because a lot of people have trauma triggers, more than you would know. And I've been blessed to be able to sit with people who don't overshare as much as I have in the past, and people don't know their struggles, and they've overcome unthinkable things, and they sit with it every day, and it's really hard. And it's not easy, and a lot of people do have these. And so I always, when I was going through all that with Noah, I was like, take care of my children. And the Bible scripture that always calls out to me is when you're unsure what to do and you're like, I don't know, like a lot of it, sometimes it feels like it contradicts New and Old Testament and everything. And I've always felt like he kind of summarized it for us and was like, if you don't know what to do, I think it's no scholar with this, but something along the lines of feed my sheep, take care of my lambs. If you're still not sure, which I'm never sure, just love people. Above all else, just love them, take care of people, and everything else kind of takes care of itself. So for me, coming out of this crisis, which wasn't, everything was fine. It was just a trigger, and it was a fair one. I'm giving myself some grace because I wasn't overreacting, and everything is fine now. But, for me, the situation with Noah was really hard for me too. But I remember when everything was okay, making a pledge to him and going, even if nobody hears it, which they may not. I don't think anyone's going. Usually I try to make videos, which I hate to make. And so usually I try to make them under 3 minutes, and no one even usually gets past 30 seconds. So there may be actually no one who gets to the end of this, and that's okay. But if there's one, that's fine, because I almost made a promise to him that if he would take care of my children, and it was excruciating watching your child struggle. And I always say, we parents, we feel it twice. It's more, I think it's more painful. I don't know a parent who wouldn't rather personally struggle than watch their child struggle. But when we came out of that, I told him, thank you, for taking care of my child. I don't know what means I have. I've not figured many things out, and I'm not sure I ever will, but I will try with all of my heart in pure gratitude to do what I can to take care of yours. So today I am grateful that I have the tools to pull myself out of this, because there was a time younger that I didn't. And after that situation with Noah, there were years where I felt, shortness of breath, and I just couldn't move forward sometimes. And now I do have tools, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm very grateful that he sent me on a journey where I can help others to have those tools, because I have not found enlightenment, and I have not found anyone who's figured it all out. So my theory is that we're just in it together, and maybe none of us, definitely not us clinicians, or not this one at least, have figured it out, but we kind of fight and figure out what is in our toolbox that works for us, and we just keep getting up together and use the tools that works. So for me, I'm going to be kind of creative today. I'm going to let myself off the hook. I'm going to remind myself that adrenaline doesn't calm adrenaline. Also, during the past week, diaphragm breathing is what got me through it. So when we're in an adrenaline state and we're not at a point where we're outside of it and we know everything is fine, coping mechanisms may not be the way. You may actually have to physiologically use your body to calm your mind, which is a bottom-up technique for calming adrenaline in the brain when you have a trauma response. So through this past week, diaphragm breathing's as good as you're gonna get. Tons of content online. And afterwards, when the heat of it's gone and you're like, I am safe, you got to feed your soul. It's different for everyone. Find what it is. For me, it's never found without my faith, but whatever it is for you, find it, keep fighting, and keep getting up. So if anyone at all made it to the end of this, thanks for watching and have a happy day.